Ahead on America This Week, United We Stand.
The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha.
We take a look at the Republican National Convention.
They deserve our deepest appreciation. Because no matter what the Democrats say, you and I both know when we dial 911, we don't want it going to voicemail.
The chair of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, is here. And political commentator Ameshia Cross joins me. Plus, I'm talking balls and strikes with Katelyn Caralle of the Daily Mail.
It's a fight that we are in right now, and it is a fight that only my father can win.
That and so much more.
We need my husband to be our president and commander-in-chief for 4 more years. He is what is best for our country.
Right now on America This Week, United We Stand. Welcome to America This Week, United We Stand. I'm Eric Bolling. Tonight, President Trump is poised to make his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention. On Wednesday, Vice President Mike Pence was one of the keynote speakers. Sinclair's national correspondent, Atra El-Nashar, has the latest.
Well, for the first time this week, we did not hear from President Donald Trump as many expected, though he did make an appearance at the end for the national anthem. So instead, the spotlight was mostly on the women in the Trump administration and the Trump campaign, and on the vice president's attacks on their Democratic opponent.
I humbly accept your nomination to run and serve as Vice President of the United States.
Vice President Mike Pence taking the stage at Fort McHenry, highlighting the first term of the Trump administration and making the case for a second.
To bring America all the way back, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
Also serving pointed attacks against Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden.
Where Joe Biden sees American darkness, we see American greatness. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely.
But earlier this week, Biden said this.
I don't want to defund police departments. I think they need more help. They need more assistance. And we have to make it clear that this is about protecting neighborhoods, protecting people.
On a softer note, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany and Counselor to the President Kellyanne Conway making an appeal to female voters by speaking from personal experience.
I want my daughter to grow up in President Donald J. Trump's America.
He confides in and consults us, respects our opinions, and insists that we are on equal footing with the men.
Messages like these aiding the Republican Party's effort to win suburban voters in key states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, all states President Trump won in 2016 by less than 1%.
Now, tonight is the 4th and final night of the RNC. We'll be hearing President Trump give his keynote address and formally accept the Republican nomination for president. We'll also hear from the top 2 Republicans in Congress, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar. Back to you.
I have reflected on the racial unrest in our country. It is a harsh reality that we are not proud of parts of our history. We must remember that today we are all one community comprised of many races, religions, and ethnicities. Our diverse and storied history is what makes our country strong.
The RNC underwent some major changes just months before the convention. No small feat for something that takes well over a year, sometimes even longer, of planning. Joining me now is the chair of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel. Ronna, thank you for joining us. So tell us some of the challenges in a COVID-era convention. I mean, you guys, last time you were on, you said we're definitely going to be in North Carolina or Jacksonville, and then it had to switch. How did you get it all done?
It has been a challenge. I will say there's been a lot of sleepless nights, Eric. We had invested a lot of time in Charlotte. I had about 50 staff living in Charlotte, gearing up, 2 years out, preparing. A lot of deposits had been made, and then COVID came, and we had to upend everything. We tried to shift to Jacksonville. COVID hit that city incredibly hard, and the president made a leadership decision. And he said, it's just not right to take away resources from a city while we're dealing with this pandemic. I don't want to take away testing resources. So I think it was about the 80-day mark, the 80-day out mark, that he said, let's pull the plug on Jacksonville and we're going to go virtual. And we've been scrambling, and it's nice to be seeing it successful, and I feel really good about where we are.
So, you know, I know these things. These conventions cost, I believe, hundreds of millions of dollars. Correct me if I'm wrong. There must be some major losses. And now, are you gonna stick North Carolina with those losses? You know, Governor Cooper's the one who pulled the plug there. Who gets stuck with all these losses?
Well, we did do the business of the convention in Charlotte. So I know a lot of people didn't notice that on Monday. We gavelled into Charlotte. We had delegates. It was in person. We did the roll call in person with delegates. And then our lawyers have been working diligently with the team in Charlotte. And I think we've come to a really good way of dissolving what was the host committee and the obligations we had in Charlotte. But our lawyers have been up a lot, and we worked together in good faith to put any obligations to rest. But it was a lot of money, and glad it's over.
Ronna, do you think, as I watch both of the conventions, it looked like the Democrats were going very, very much Zoom-looking type of convention. You guys were doing a lot more in-person stuff. Do you think there was some sort of, I don't know, let's call it a quiet bifurcation? In other words, they wanted America to feel like we're really being struck with COVID, where you guys want to say it's time to reopen businesses? Is any underlying theme there?
I do. I think the fact that we have audiences for our convention, we have live programming, but that in-person element where the president actually came to Charlotte to see the delegates, we have audiences for the major speeches. That's a difference from the Democrats, and here's what you take from it. Joe Biden thinks the whole country should be bunkering down in their basement. He wants to shut the country down again. He's made no secret about that fact. And Donald Trump is saying we can balance health and safety. We can come together as Americans, because average Americans, shutting down isn't an option. We have to go to work. Many people live paycheck to paycheck. We need to get this economy humming. Joe Biden's plan only works for the elite, for Hollywood celebrities, from big tech billionaires, and for privileged politicians. But most Americans need to work, and we can do that in a healthy and safe way.
Ron, I only have about a minute, so I wanted to get this question in. Obviously, people know that you're the niece of Mitt Romney. You know, Jeff Flake, former senator, soon to be former senator from Arizona, has been pretty anti-Trump. And your uncle hasn't been exactly, voting with or siding with Trump on a lot of things. How do you, what's Thanksgiving dinner like with Uncle Mitt?
Well, we haven't seen each other for a while, but with Jeff Flake and these former Republicans, they're not Republicans anymore. I mean, if you look at the issues that Donald Trump has championed that we're highlighting in this convention, deregulation, tax cuts, pro-life, rule of law judges, all of these things are standard bearers of the Republican Party. So if Jeff Flake wants to embrace socialism and take our country down the path of Joe Biden, he is a Democrat, and he no longer can call himself a Republican, in my mind, as all those other former Republicans are embracing Joe Biden as well. They are now Democrats because they are espousing ideals that will fundamentally transform this nation and have nothing to do with the ideals of the Republican Party.
Ronna McDaniel, everybody. Is it co-chair or is it chair? Is
chair. Yeah. Oh, no, don't demote. I'm the chairwoman.
You're the chairwoman. There you go. There you go. Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, thank you so much. And boy, what a tall order you were given. Do a convention with 80 days when it normally takes 2 years. Congratulations, Ronna.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
Ahead on America This Week, United We Stand. Protests have erupted across the U.S. again this week, some of which have turned violent. Are domestic terrorists to blame? You won't want to miss my discussion with political commentator Ameshia Cross next.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American
We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress of the United States.
During an interview on MSNBC earlier this week, Speaker Pelosi basically accused the president of being a domestic terrorist. I think she may have said domestic enemy, but what's the difference? Let's break it all down. Bring in Sinclair political commentator Ameshia Cross. Ameshia, pretty hefty accusation there. Domestic enemy, the president of the United States?
Strong words, but well-earned. It's a well-earned title. We see Donald Trump continually trying to bolster his own election chances by basically diminishing people at the polls, appointing a postmaster general who's a huge donor of his and supporter, who is going out of his way to ensure that mail-in ballots just aren't going to happen effectively, removing postal boxes, removing sorting machines. We're watching this president utilize mail-in voting as some type of Uber fraud type situation when he's been mail-in voting forever. And so does 70% of his White House administration. So I think that this is something that was par for the course in terms of Nancy Pelosi speaking out in the way that she did, because this president is basically trying to destroy one of the core elements of our democracy.
So I take it he's not earned your vote yet. So here's the issue. Look, I get you don't like the guy. I understand voting is going to be a big political issue going forward. But for the Speaker of the House to say he's a domestic enemy, I think of people like, I don't know, Kim Jong-un, or I think of some of the mullahs in Iran or ISIS as domestic enemies. But you don't like the guy, so she's using some pretty harsh terms. It feels like a cheap shot to me.
Well, I disagree there, because domestic enemy and terrorists are two very different things. I would consider segregationists domestic enemies. I would consider people who have who utilize fear tactics and scare tactics to keep people away from voting domestic enemies. I would consider those who prevent minorities from moving into their communities domestic enemies. I would consider those who strip funding from public schools domestic enemies.
Do you consider Antifa a domestic enemy?
I consider Antifa a creation of the right-wing media.
Is Antifa a domestic enemy? It's a simple yes or no.
And again, I consider them a creation of the right-wing media.
This Antifa, quote-unquote, creation of the right-wing media is a domestic enemy, yes or no?
Creation of the right-wing media.
Wow. You know, Ameshia, you and I are friends for a long time. I'm just blown away. And this is what's good. You want to know something? This is Bolling speaking here. This is why Biden won't win. This is why he can't win, because no one on the left can denounce Antifa and the antics and the tactics that they're employing in our major cities. Our major cities are burned. They're boarded up. They're burning down. Glass is being broken. And no one can stand up, Pelosi, Biden, even you, and say, that's not good. Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization. I don't get it. Why is that?
No, I consider that there are some provocateurs. There are some people who enjoy causing chaos and mayhem in cities and getting their moment in the news and then disappearing. What I don't agree with is that this is some organized Antifa group of ultra-violent leftist wing people. What we do know is that many cities where Antifa was projected as causing violence, it actually happened to be someone who was antagonistic to and was a member of a right-wing militia. So no, I don't believe in that narrative at all.
No, you know, it's so odd because, I mean, I will tell you, these Proud Boys, now they call themselves ultra right-wing. I'm pretty sure they're ultra right-wing, and they're seen fighting with Antifa in some of our major cities. You're suggesting that two right-wing groups are at war with each other?
I'm suggesting that, or just stating that Antifa is not an organized group of extreme leftists who are pushing socialist ideals and out here trying to tear up and create chaos and mayhem in our major cities.
It seems like it, Ameshia. It really seems like it. It really seems
something that conservatives parrot daily.
It seems like it. They're out there breaking windows, disrupting businesses. People, citizens, innocent citizens can't get to their businesses, pay their rent. What is the purpose of Antifa? Do we know?
Again, I'm not going to give credibility to the argument of Antifa being an organized group. I believe they're provocateurs, like there have always been provocateurs when it comes to civil rights and justice. They've always infiltrated protests. This is nothing new. The whole Antifa ideology and the presence of this group that has been created by right-wing media is just something that continues to encircle these conversations, but something that has not been proven. So
you know what also has not been proven? What you just said. You said that Antifa is a creation of right-wing media. I know. I see the flags. They're black. They got an A and there's a circle around it. There's no right-wing media that's creating that. And those are the people, and they're dressed in all black, and they're putting face masks on, hiding their identity, helmets, etc., and they're beating up people and they're throwing rocks. How is it a right-wing media phenomenon and not an actual violent extremist group?
We have seen in several cities that there are people who are antagonistic towards protesters, but also antagonistic towards the police, and they aren't really helping the movement in and of themselves. But what I don't believe is that this is a largely leftist wing organized group that is actually causing this violence. I think that what you see, again, is provocateurs, and they have existed throughout time in various movements, not only in the U.S., but also abroad. And this is nothing new. And the labeling of these individuals as leftists who are coming to destroy cities only helps with the right-wing narrative of trying to shut down and throw a lot of shade and animosity towards leaders that are in democratic cities.
Boy, I don't know. It's just from an outside observer, for Black Lives Matter to allow a violent group to infiltrate their peaceful protests, largely peaceful protests, it just seems like you had a win, and then you're giving the win away because you let these shenanigans happen and corrupt your message. Quick final thought.
No, I agree with you there. I do think that there is something to be said about the extent to which these outside groups have come in and created chaos in situations where these are largely peaceful protests. I also find it extremely problematic that media tends to cover those incidents a lot more than it does the hundreds of thousands of people who are peacefully protesting across this country. No doubt, no doubt. If it bleeds, it leads in media. I got you, and there are literally hundreds of thousands of peaceful protests, and unfortunately, it doesn't put pretty pictures on the screen or violent pictures on the screen. That's what our viewers want to see, I guess. Ameshia Cross, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Coming up on America This Week, United We Stand. With less than 3 months to the election, post office delays raise concerns over mail-in voting. We're talking balls and strikes with Katelyn Caralle of the Daily Mail. Join me in the fight against the killer opioids that are killing our neighborhoods, our families. They're taking our most precious resource, our children, at an alarming rate again. I'm working with the U.S. Office of Drug Policy, and I've worked alongside First Lady Melania Trump, who has made fighting the opioid epidemic one of the pillars of her Be Best initiative. Please help me fight the drug lords who are supplying a deadly killer to our kids. I expose the drug cartels who use our land, our seas, and our skies, our country, to make billions of dollars poisoning our children. Make a donation to the Eric Chase Foundation, ericchasefoundation.org. 100% of the proceeds will go towards exposing the drug cartels. There's literally no better place to help than to help the ones most vulnerable. Last week, our top donor was Georgia. Here's a small token of my gratitude, signed, sealed, on its way.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand, American strong. United we stand. We stand, American strong. City by city, state by state, town by town, stand American great. Everyone stands American strong. When strength by one equals strength by all.
The Postal Service is fully capable and committed to delivering the nation's ballots securely and on time. This sacred duty is my #1 priority between now and Election Day.
That was Postmaster General Louis DeJoy testifying before the House Oversight Committee earlier this week. Some Democrats claim that DeJoy is working with the president to harm the Postal Service ahead of the election, affecting mail-in voting. Here to discuss balls and strikes regarding mail-in ballots and others in the upcoming election cycle is Katelyn Caralle. She's the U.S. political reporter with the Daily Mail. Katelyn, thank you for joining us. So how has a mailbox become the latest political football?
Right. So Louis DeJoy is unfortunately stuck in the middle of this between the Democrats, Republicans, and the president. He only came into this job about 2.5 months ago, not even 2.5 months ago now. And he says that what they're trying to pass in the House and now is going to the Senate, the $25 billion that they're asking for USPS, is not needed. And he is saying that the USPS can handle this even if universal mail-in ballots are implemented in November.
And the left is saying, but the concern is that the Postal Service won't be able to handle the volume, and therefore it'll be a corrupt election, right?
Right. I mean, he's saying that they will be able to handle it, and he doesn't see any concerns currently at the post office. He has said that he will not make any more changes at the post office before the elections to make sure that it all runs smoothly. And he is saying that there's not going to be any problems, whether or not, whether or not Republicans or Democrats believe that is up in the air, as this has become obviously a partisan issue. Democrats are saying that they feel he is trying to not take that money from them and trying to say that they don't need it because he's trying to influence the election. And obviously the post office and Republicans feel differently.
So you cover politics, and I'm assuming you're watching these campaigns go on, over the last couple of weeks. Your thoughts on the difference between the Democrats' highly virtual convention and the Republicans trying to put more, I guess, live people in seats in front of other people? What's the production value? What's the takeaway, do you say?
Right. So Republicans are obviously trying to do a return to normalcy. That's kind of what their whole week is about. So by getting an actual audience in there and doing more live remarks and producing it almost like it would be a normal convention just without the massive crowds is definitely their strategy. And Democrats are taking it more like they're trying to produce it almost like any other kind of big production on TV. They're making a lot of more short clips, quick remarks. They're doing a lot of cuts. They had different people reading the preamble they were having like big cuts between that, trying to get as many people in as possible and involved. So there was definitely a big difference in terms of how it flowed.
Do you think, and I'm just speculating as we speak, and again, this is balls and strikes, just want facts, but let me rephrase that. Is there a word, do people believe that there may be some sort of subtle, I don't know, reminder among the Democrats that we're still in a coronavirus, therefore they're going to keep the masks on, they're going to keep it virtual Zoom meeting type, whereas the Republicans are saying, oh, it's not as bad as everyone's making out to seem. Is that one of the themes, subtle themes in these two conventions?
Of course, like I said, with the Republicans, they're trying to make it a return to normalcy, as in a return to normalcy from coronavirus and it shaking the nation like this. So by having a crowd, by having more live events, by having less masks, by holding it at public areas instead of like Democrats were doing it a lot more remote in people's houses or whatever. They are trying to show that they're still cautious about this. Joe Biden obviously said if he became president, he's going to issue a mask mandate. So they're really focusing on that with the production values of the conventions as well. Okay,
less than a minute or so, Katelyn, if you just give us, any surprises over the last 2 weeks conventions?
Not a bunch of surprises. There obviously were the naturalization ceremony at the White House for the Republican convention was a surprise for some, and Trump pardoning the former felon. And those were some big surprises. On the Democrat side, I think everything was pretty laid out ahead of time, so there weren't any huge surprises there in terms of production and in terms of what they brought to the table.
Fantastic. We'll leave it right there. Welcome to the show. First time, Katelyn Caralle from the Daily Mail, political reporter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Remember to set your DVR so you never miss an episode of America This Week, United We Stand. Go to facebook.com/America Bowling, all one word, to find out where we air in your city. We have a complete list of cities at the top of the page. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. In case you missed the show or want to rewatch an episode, you can see them all right there.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand, America. United we stand. We stand, America. United we stand.
Deadly hurricane-force winds hit Iowa hard, smashing homes, damaging farms, ruining millions of acres of crops. Support Iowans, those who feed America, who are now in need of your help. Our stations have partnered with the Salvation Army for the Sinclair Cares Iowa Storm Relief Fund. Your support will help devastated families and farmers rebuild their lives. Go to sinclaircares.com to make your donation today. That's a wrap from the D.C. Swamp. Thanks again for joining me for our special coverage of the RNC on America This Week, United We Stand. The election is quickly approaching, and the race for the presidency just is heating up right now. Be sure to join me in the coming weeks as we continue to cover politics in America from every angle. Have a great night, everyone. See you next week.